Hello, people. As promised, I am going live today, and I want to ask you right out of the box, have you ever had a pot on the stove with milk in it and you left it on the stove for too long? You know what happens, right? It starts to foam up. It starts to like bubble and get all the way to the top as it foams, and it overflows over the rim of the pot and it gets onto the stove, and it's a sticky, horrible mess, just like some of the messes in our own lives, right? So, hi Katie, nice to see you. Now, I like to use this as a metaphor for some of the messes in our own lives, because in our lives we have things that have got to the point where they're like boiling over and they're saying, look at me, deal with me, I need your attention right now, right? And I think that COVID has really put a lot of pressure on the things that were already just simmering in our lives, right? There were things already before COVID, the whole COVID virus started, before that thing hit us on our planet, that were already simmering in our lives, that we weren't dealing with, that we were letting sit on the stove, that we were letting bubble up. But I think COVID has really put a lot more pressure on us to look at these things. Wouldn't you agree? You know, there were things that were already about to boil over. Maybe they already did boil over. Now you've got this big mess to clean up. You know, have you ever tried to like get that sticky, smelly milk off of your stove? I have one of those glass flat top stoves, and it's such a pain. I can't imagine with the old spiral type burners how that must be to clean up a milky mess, but it is not fun. It's disgusting and it smells horrible. So I want you to think a little bit about what could be making a mess in your life right now. What are some of those things that have been simmering, or maybe they've just completely boiled over and you've got to deal with them now? They could be things that you'll notice they're stressing you out. Maybe they're chipping away at your self-confidence, and you're really feeling that right now, and you're doubting yourself and you don't believe in yourself right now. And maybe you're having a really hard time seeing the future and seeing a good future for yourself because of these things that are just simmering on the stove, wanting your attention. These are things that if you were to deal with them, if you were to take some time and come up with a plan of action to help satisfy them, that your life would improve in so many ways. You know, it's not just about the pot of milk boiling on the stove, it's all the other stuff that comes with it, right? Like you've got to do all the cleanup. There's just so much more work to do when you allow something like that to go without being really explored and looked at and taken seriously. And so today, that's what I want to help you with today, is to help you look at some of the things that are going on in your own life and to give you a 4-step process to help you work through those things so that they aren't just there, they aren't just simmering. I mean, the other part of this too is if you put a pot on the stove and then you go into another room in your house and you just leave it there, isn't it kind of like on your mind that you've got that pot on the stove, right? Like you don't just forget about it, right? You're just, in the back of your mind, there's this little reminder there that you've got that pot on the stove. Don't forget. You know, don't leave it for too long. Don't go off and do something and get distracted for too long, because you're going to come back to a big mess or maybe a fire, right? Like that would be horrible. It'd be like the worst case scenario. But this is what we do in our lives, right? We do that. We think, well, if I know it's there, I can sense it, I feel it on that back burner, but I'm not going to look at it right now, right? I'm going to go in the other room and I'm just going to pretend it's not really there. Yeah, how does that serve you? It doesn't help you, right? It doesn't help you at all. because eventually you're going to have to deal with it, right? Like I just got my mail and there's some bills in there. I don't want to have to pay bills, you know? Paying bills sucks. Like, I'm just going to say it. It's like, I've got my money. I'm going to have to put it towards bills. But I know if I don't pay those bills on time, that there's going to be repercussions, right? There's going to be consequences. I'm going to have to pay interest on my credit card bill if I don't pay it off, right? And so that is just, ignoring that is just creating more tension and stress in my life. And then that ends up bleeding over into other parts of my life, right? And other parts of your life. If you feel like there's pressure here and there's pressure there, that's going to create pressure in you, and you're going to show up in your life not 100% feeling great about yourself and healthy and happy and excited about your life, because there's all these pressures in the background just simmering on the stove. It's time to look at this stuff, right? It's time to take a look at this stuff. And that's what I want to help you do today. This isn't going to be a long video. We're almost done, actually. I'm going to move into the process in just a minute. But I really just want you to think about, you know, how some of these things that you know you should be dealing with, that you haven't looked at, that you've left on the stove and just turned away from them and looked away, how are they impacting other parts of your life? Right? I've heard this phrase before, that how you show up in one area of your life is how you show up in all the other areas of your life. So if you're showing up frustrated in, say, your finances, you're going to show up frustrated in your relationships. You're going to show up with that same kind of energy and tension in your health and your lifestyle. You're probably not going to take very good care of yourself because you're tense, because you're agitated, because you're frustrated. It's because you're not centered. You're distracted. And I would just like to ask you, what would it mean to your overall well-being if you really started paying attention to these things now? And you already know what they are. It's not really a mystery. They're there. It's just maybe you're a little afraid to even look at them. All right, I want to help you have the confidence and the courage to look at these things today. All right, so let's start with the first step. So I've just called it a 4-step process to relieve pressure for your well-being. Okay, so when people, let me just clarify about what well-being is. A lot of time people think of well-being as something that's just physical. It's about your weight, it's about your energy, your health. But well-being is part of it, but it's also your finances, what you do for a living. Do you feel fulfilled in your occupation? Do you have a purpose? Your relationships, right? Your finances, your spirituality, all of those things encompass your well-being, okay? So first step, identify what pressures are showing up and get really, really clear about them. So for example, right now, one of the things I've heard from many different people I've talked to is that they want more meaning in their life, more purpose. And, you know, that's the pressure they're dealing with right now. And maybe so many people have lost their jobs, and they're really feeling like, I don't want to go back to that job, you know, that I've been laid off from. That I'm not looking forward to the phone call. It's time to come back to work. I want something with more depth and meaning. I want to wake up every day and feel like I'm doing something that really matters, that I really love to do, that I enjoy. And can you see, like, as I'm talking about that, how much joy there is in my voice as I'm talking, and how that is well-being. That's an example of well-being. It makes you feel good. What you're doing, if it's purposeful and meaningful to you, it's going to make you happy. It's going to make you feel good. You're going to show up happier in all these other areas of your life. So identify what are the pressures that are showing up for you and get really, really crystal clear about them. And then step 2 is question its validity. What I'm talking about here is it really important to you? Because remember, some of these are things that have been simmering for a long time and you haven't looked at them, like really taken a good hard look at them and given them enough of your attention. Is it really important to you, or is it something that you really don't want because it's more of an expectation that you think other people have of you? Or maybe it came from someone else, or maybe even it came from comparing yourself to somebody else. You know, we do that, right? Especially with social media, we see what other people are showing to us, that what they're posting on their pages, and often we get this false perception that their life is so much better than ours, right? And that we should be just as happy and fulfilled as they are. It's just so, it's really such a big lie that we tell ourselves, that we have to be like other people. What's wrong with us? We don't have our stuff together. You know, like I'm middle-aged and I still don't know what I want to do with my life, right? Do you feel like that? I cannot tell you how many people in my age group that have shared that with me. It's, you know, and I think that's what makes people so interesting, is that we're just never satisfied, right? We're always wanting to grow, and we're meant to grow, right? We're supposed to grow. Our growth never stops. Once you achieve that goal, that big dream of yours, there's just going to be another one to follow after that. So you've got to enjoy that whole process, the whole journey of it, right? And I don't want to get off topic here, but I'm going to give you an example here. So let's use that life purpose example. You know, we see other people modeling a life that we think we'd really like to have, but do we really want to have that? You know, we see it and then we think we should have that, or it'd be nice to have that big house and go on those vacations with the family, you know, 2 or 3 times a year, and have all that money and have that successful business. But is it really what you want? You've got to ask yourself that question. And is it really worth the time and the energy and the effort that you're going to have to put into it to get it? Right? It might not be. So these are questions you really need to ask yourself when you're looking at these different pressures. Are they just expectations that you have of yourself, from yourself, or that you've taken on based on what other people have said to you or what you see in other people? And then third step is, what is the pressure inviting you to notice? Is it that there's this pressure on you to, you know, look after your nutrition and your fitness because your health is suffering, but you're really not dealing with it? Is it that your relationships are suffering because you're not acknowledging something really important in those relationships? Is it that you deserve something more fulfilling and purposeful in your life, but you're not allowing yourself to have it because you feel like you just don't deserve it, or you're not worthwhile? What is that pressure really wanting you to notice? Okay, so that's the third step. Let's just recap. So we've got the first step, identify what pressures are showing up and get clear about them. Second step is question their validity. Third step, what is it inviting you to notice? And then the final step is brainstorm different ways that you can satisfy that pressure so that you can get what you really want and what you really need. Okay, sometimes we want something, but it's not what we need, right? I mean, I could want a bigger house. I could want a mansion, a great big estate, but it might not be what you need. You know how much work you're gonna have to do with a house? Like, I have a house. It's a lot of work. It's nice to have a house, but I got to do all that yard work, and it's a pain in the ass sometimes. I don't want to spend my time doing that. So really look at how can you satisfy that pressure to get what you want and what you need, okay? So be careful about saying, I really want this, because there's all these other things that come along with it, right? Kind of like a relationship, kind of like a person. They might be gorgeous, like as a woman, maybe it's a beautiful, attractive man, but maybe he's got a lot of baggage you just don't really need. So it might be best to not go down that road. So when you're thinking about brainstorming different ways to satisfy these pressures in your life, I want you to also think about maybe you need some encouragement. Maybe you need a little help from someone else, or maybe you need to learn something. You need more knowledge about a certain subject. Maybe you've got to deal more with your mindset around it, like how you think about it. Maybe you need to take an action that feels really uncomfortable, like addressing a relationship issue. That's really uncomfortable. Maybe it's just being honest with yourself that the way things have been going just aren't working for you anymore in your health or your relationships or your finances. Maybe it's about building your confidence and believing in yourself more. So think about all those different things that you need to be able to satisfy these pressures that are just nagging at you, that are just saying, hey, notice me, I'm gonna boil over any minute, okay? And I know you can do this. Just go through all the steps, and I really think you'll get a lot more clarity about these different things, and they won't feel so stressful once you look at them. If they're just kind of, like I say, sitting on the stove and you go in the other room, you're going to feel some stress, right? Because you're going to be thinking, oh, I got to get back to that pot. I got to get back to it before it boils over. That's what these pressures are doing to you on a daily basis if you're not looking at them. So if you like this lesson today, hit like on this post and go to jewelwellness.com and sign up for my newsletter. I will send you lots of tips and give you lots of training and encouragement to improve your well-being and help you live well and love your life. Have a great day, and thanks for joining me. Take care.